सर माझी स्क्रीन दिसते सर?
हो दिसते सर. स्लाइड शो केल्यानंतर हो ओके.
So thank you very much, Dr. Sati sir. This is and good morning everybody. This is going to be last lecture for this pre-PhD course as far as my interaction with you all is concerned. Today I will be, as I mentioned yesterday, today I will be focusing on drafting of research manuscript or drafting of scientific manuscript. Yesterday we have started, but let me start it again. What I am expecting, like at the end of these are going to be a learning outcome. By the end of this presentation, I hope that you all will be able to understand the main features of. Gaurav.
Yes, sir.
Gaurav, the background noise कुठला आहे? Background noise कुठला आहे?
Yes, this is sir. Yes.
So
Yes, sir.
good afternoon all of you.
ते पुन्हा तिकडचा आवाज येतो इकडे. ओके. माझा आवाज येतो गौरव?
This topic is
Yes, sir.
application of statistics.
Okay. So by the end of this presentation, I do hope that student will be able to understand the main feature of scientific writing. You will be able to identify the elements of scientific writing. You will be able to describe the function, structure, and writing style of each element of the scientific writing, because we are going to discuss all those elements of scientific manuscript. You will be able to draft the impactful scientific manuscript, and most importantly, you will be able to respect the academic integrity, honesty, and ethics of scientific writing. So what does it mean? It means that I'm going to cover all this aspect, and I do believe that you will be able to earn all those skills. These are going to be learning outcome of today's presentation. Yesterday we already talked about this, so I'm not going to discuss this slide because we already started and I don't want to waste time on this slide. Similarly, we have also discussed. So yesterday we were talking about the publishing research article is going to be very, very important for each one of us because we are working in academic institution. I just wanted to tell you that although it is important, but rejection is going to be very normal. But whenever we are saying normal, we need to understand why the manuscripts are being rejected. So we have discussed yesterday the two prominent reasons that the one of the prominent reason is it may not have novelty. Another is you may not having adequate drafting skills, and as a result of that, somehow you could not impress reviewer. So these are the two prominent shortcomings that we have discussed yesterday. And then later on, we went ahead and discussed this as well. Like I mean, why the most of the research scholars. So we have discussed earlier also on the very first day that most of the research scholars are not able to publish their data in Journal of International Repute, and what are the reasons, and these reasons we have already discussed twice. Now this is going to be a new slide now. What are the key aspects of drafting manuscript? Like whenever you are drafting manuscript, you need to understand what reviewer is going to look into your manuscript, because unless you understand that, you will not be able to incorporate all those features in your manuscript. What I'm trying to tell you that whenever the manuscript is going to be received by a reviewer, what reviewer is going to see into your manuscript. So these are four important aspects that every reviewer is going to look into, and you will have to be very careful about that. The very first aspect that the reviewer is going to see is whether your manuscript has got novelty in it, right? Then second, whether he is going to see whatever research outcome you have, whether it has got some social relevance, or whatever research outcome you have, whether it is aligned with any national mission of the country as a whole. Third parameter, he is going to check like what is the credibility or credential of the person who is presenting paper, I mean who has submitted paper, first author and his research group. And fourth one is drafting skill. Like this is not going to be looked into, but while going through the manuscript, the reviewer is going to understand whether you have, I mean, if you are having good drafting skills, you will not be able to earn those skills. sorry, if you don't have adequate skill, you will not be able to impress the reviewer. And therefore, these 4 are going to be very, very important. And let me discuss one by one. Novelty. How to incorporate. The question is, although these 4 points are important, and although let us say we came to know that these 4 points are going to be confirmed or going to be checked by the reviewer into your manuscript, then we need to understand how these 4 points can be incorporated in our novelty, in our manuscript. So let us see one by one. Novelty. This part we have already discussed, that this is how the novelty can be inculcated. That means you need to do a rigorous literature review. I already told you the meaning of rigorous literature review, what is to be done, what not to be done, how hypothesis can be formulated, and how objectives can be formulated based on hypothesis, what is null hypothesis, what is alternate hypothesis, that we have already discussed. So at the end of literature review, you will be able to formulate your hypothesis, and that will help you to find out your experimental, finalize your experimental plan or research strategy. But while doing that, you need to understand, as I mentioned earlier, rigorous doesn't mean that only quantity. Rigorous means what kind the journals which you will be referring for a literature review, the quality of those journals is going to be very, very important. And therefore, you need to understand how to identify journal of international repute. That also we have discussed. Similarly, it's not going to be only enough. So later on, you need to understand, even if the journal is good, but you need to see, you need to ensure rather, whatever journal you will be choosing, that journal will be publishing most of the papers from your focus area. If you could do that, you will be able to inculcate novelty. The last parameter in the novelty aspect is going to be, although you have done rigorous literature review, although you have identified journal of international repute, although you have identified journal in your focus area, but if you are fail to identify the potential research group across the globe in your area, then again you will not be able to keep track of those new research, what is happening elsewhere, and they will be just ahead of you, and you will be missing novelty whenever you will be submitting paper. I told you earlier that whenever you will start your research, at that time you might be having novelty, and as a result of that, you must have got tempted to do that research. You must have carried out experiment, you must have got the data, you must have interpreted it nicely, and drafted the manuscript. But when the manuscript is submitted to the journal, by that time the other potential group in your area, they were just ahead of you, and by that time they have published the data similar on the same track, and you are going to lose the novelty. And therefore, in order to inculcate novelty, in order to incorporate novelty in your investigation, these 4 points are going to be very, very important. नेक्स्ट वन इज हाउ टू, क्योंकि बहुत बार लोग मुझे पूछते हैं कि ठीक है, आई मीन सेइंग मेकिंग स्टेटमेंट इज वेरी इजी, लाइक वी नीड टू हैव अ सोशल रिलेवेंस, we need to have the national importance in our manuscript, but how to incorporate, how to do this, how that social relevance can be reflected in our manuscript. For that purpose, I told you earlier also, but again I'm going to repeat the same thing, that like in order to incorporate social relevance in your manuscript, first of all, what you need to do is you need to do your own SWOT analysis. Identify your strength, area of expertise, because unless you know the strength and your area of expertise, you will not be able to map it properly. Therefore, the very first thing that you need to do for this particular purpose is keep on writing your area of expertise. So you may be having 2 area of expertise, 3 area of expertise, maybe 4 or 5, whatever. So write down that number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then start identifying issues pertaining to expertise of research scholar. I mean, like, because whenever we start collecting problems or issues, if you are keeping it open ended, then it will be very difficult for you, because wherever you are living, there will be a number of issues around you, but you may not be able to resolve all those issues. And only thing is that once you identify issues, you need to understand whether you have enough credibility or enough credential, enough authority to address that issue. And therefore, while identifying issues, you need to see whether that issue related to my area of expertise, whether I will be able to address this issue. अगर आप वो address कर ही नहीं पाओ, तो वो आपके list में होने का कोई मतलब नहीं होगा. Therefore, whatever list you will be preparing, that list of issues I'm talking about, that list of issues should be related to your area of expertise. And once you have a list of expertise, your own expertise, list of issues, then try to do the mapping. मैपिंग का मतलब क्या होगा कि जैसे कि एक इश्यूज है, आपके बहुत सारे स्ट्रेंथ है, which strength is going to be suitable for addressing that issues. Let us say you have got 5 different strengths, right? So out of those 5, which strength, which expertise is going to be more relevant to address the issues which you have identified so far on the top. And therefore that mapping should be done properly to begin with. And once you do the mapping, then you have to decide the priorities, right? Priorities, जैसे उस दिन मैंने किसी ने पूछा था कि how to decide the priorities. Priorities can be decided on the basis of your own interest, on the basis of need, there could be a number of parameters for that. It depends, again, it varies from individual to individual. Like I would say, like first of all, the first point that should be taken care, that should be looked into to decide the priorities would be my area of expertise. क्योंकि problem solve करना जरूरी है, लेकिन मेरा अगर expertise उस area में नहीं है, so even if it is needed, but I don't have that expertise, so that it doesn't make any sense. Therefore, the first point that should be taking care of is area of expertise. क्या आपके पास वो strength है, क्या आपके पास वो capabilities है कि वो problem आप resolve कर पाए. So that should be your first priority. Second would be आपके पास इनफ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है क्या वो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने के लिए, वो इश्यू रिजॉल्व करने के लिए. डू यू हैव एडिक्वेट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर? दैट शुड बी द सेकंड पॉइंट दैट नीड टू बी टेकन केयर ऑफ व्हाइल डिसाइडिंग द प्रायोरिटीज. एंड थर्ड वुड बी द नीड. So like that, the 3 parameters can be applied, and then accordingly the priorities can be decided. Once you decide the priorities and once you finalize the topic number 1 to be addressed, right, on the top priorities, then you need to still go ahead, do the systematic and very rigorous literature review and fine tune that problem. And once you fine tune that problem, you will be able to incorporate your social relevance in your manuscript. And the third one is going to be credibility and credential. Now question is how credibility can be inculcated, can be incorporated in the manuscript. सबसे पहले आपको ये ध्यान में रखना पड़ेगा कि whatever manuscript you will be drafting, you need to have prior experience. You need to have prior experience. लेकिन आप कहेंगे कि sir, if I am like the researcher, in the beginning phase of my career, let us say आपने शुरुआत की अभी, and then this is going to be your first manuscript, then how your credibility is going to be checked, right? In that case, it's not going to be only credibility of the first author, but it is going to be the reviewer is going to check the credibility of research group as a whole. क्योंकि आप नए होंगे, लेकिन आपका research advisor जो होंगे आपके, he is going to be one of the established person. So your research advisory will be at the end of in the list, जो list होगी ना, list of author में, you will be first and your research advisor will be last, right? So either the reviewer is going to first check, first of all, the your own credibility. He is going to quickly do the literature survey of by your name. अगर आपके नाम पे कुछ नहीं मिलता, तो then he will going to check the literature review, I mean survey of your own work on the basis of your as advisor name. So he is going to check, because the reason for that is you might be making lot of claims in the manuscript. पहला claim क्या होगा? You will be making that we do have experience of working on this and this topic, right? Whenever you are making this kind of claim, reviewer is going to check whether whatever statement you are making in the manuscript, whether that is correct or not. So पहला जो published work है, he is going to check. Number 1. Number 2, you might be making claim in the manuscript that you have done this and this work by using this and the tools, right? So whatever tools you will be claiming, those tools must be there updated on your website. Okay, वो अगर अब website पे updated नहीं रहा, तो again let me tell you one example. I still remember in the 2015, in the year 2015, I had we have organized rather one international conference, and we invited one professor from Poland. And then he was not my direct contact. He was from contact. He was, I invited him through one of my friends, right? And then when he attended my conference along with my friend, and then he attended my conference, he visited my laboratories, and at the end, since he was there at the till valedictory, I requested him to speak at the valedictory. And then he started speaking, and he said, he started making one statement that I was really surprised to see the facilities of this particular university, and he was talking about my research laboratory. And then he has made the statement, and then he narrated any other issues. Soon after conference, I went to him and I asked him that why you have made this kind of statement, like why you were amazed, because you are from Poland, you are from one of the developed countries, you might be having more advanced facilities as compared to my research laboratory, but why you made this kind of statement? He said, I am editor of this and the journal. I remember 4-5 years back I got your paper, because I still now remember that that author was you, right? And then when you made some claim that you are having this and this I mean facilities, then what I did, I went to your website and saw, I wanted to see like whatever claim you made in the manuscript regarding the availability of that infrastructure. I wanted to ensure that it is available in your university through your website, but somehow your website was not updated. I could not see that on your website. Even today in 2015, he said, now it is you started getting, because we started updating our websites in 2014-15, and now our website is very, very updated. What I'm trying to tell you is, whatever infrastructure you have in your laboratory, that need to be updated on your website, so that whenever this you will be sending your manuscript to good journal. I'm talking about good journal. The reviewer or editor is going to cross verify whatever the claim you will be making in the manuscript. He is going to check whether you have that with you or not. And therefore, credibility and credential of research scholar is going to be tested by these 3 ways. Then drafting skill. This is very, very important. Apart from these 3, like 3 parameters, which parameters? Like novelty, social relevance, and the credibility. Apart from that, the drafting skill will, I mean, if you don't have those drafting skill, तो आपको मतलब रिव्यूअर को कन्विंस करना बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाएगा, because it is not going to be that much easy for you. Let me tell you, my friend. And therefore, my friend, I'm going to do is, throughout this now 1 hour today, I will be focusing more on how the impactful manuscript can be drafted. So what are the issues? Issues are going to be how effectively you are drafting your manuscript, how enough you are consistent, because consistent means what? Let me tell you, consistency of the material. Consistency means, like you will a manuscript will consisting of the different elements. What are those elements? Like component or element. The first one is going to be title of the manuscript, second one is going to be abstract, third one is going to be introduction, next one is going to be materials and methods, then results, discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, and references. These are going to be the skeleton. This is going to be skeleton of the manuscript, or any manuscript, or a template of the manuscript, or the element of the manuscript. Consistency means what? Whatever claim you are making in the abstract, first of all, whatever title you will be having, your abstract should be inconsistent with your title. बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि abstract कुछ और है और title कुछ और होता है, right? And then whatever you are claiming in the abstract, that should be reflected in introduction part. Whatever you are claiming in introduction, that should be reflected in materials and method, similar result and discussion, and then conclusion. So all these elements should be inconsistent. If you are losing consistency, then again you are going to create a very bad impression on the reviewer. Then inclusion of appropriate content. Sometimes what happens, like you might be having huge data with you. बहुत बार होता है कि हमारे पास डेटा बहुत सारा है, but that particular manuscript is not allowing you to include all the data. जैसे कि मान लो आपके पास 10 टेबल है, like around 20 figures आपके पास आए, whatever data you have collected, whatever experiment you have conducted, so you have got 10 different tables and around 20 odd figures, right? And that journal is not going to allow you all those data to be accommodated in the manuscript. Then what is going to be included? So inclusion of appropriate content. Out of those 20 figures, out of those 10 tables, you need to identify the impactful figures and impactful tables, and that need to be included in the manuscript. Writing and composition issues, we are going to discuss all those writing and composition issues and effective style as well. So these are some of the parameters which we are going to discuss today as far as drafting scale of research scholar is concerned. What are the content errors? Mainly, like let me tell you what the challenges to begin with. The challenges is the very first, most of the researchers are going to commit this mistake, the misleading title. बहुत बार ऐसा होता है, एक तो टाइटल बड़ा लंबा लंबा सा टाइटल होता है, so it is very huge. हमारे पास ऐसा होता है कि हमारा abstract मतलब टाइटल होता है, इंट्रोडक्शन मतलब abstract होता है, इंट्रोडक्शन तो पूरा मतलब पूरी दुनिया भर की हिस्ट्री हो जाती है. So like title इतना कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि you are discussing something else and title is something else, right? So misleading title is one of the very common content error in most of the manuscript. Then inaccurate abstract. Abstract में क्या होना चाहिए? Let me tell you, my friend. Because you see, whenever reviewer is going to check your manuscript, first of all, he is going to read your title. If title is very vague, very broad, then he is going to carry negative impact. Okay, जैसे कि आपको पता होगा कि जो टीचर्स है particularly उनको पता है कि whenever we are assessing papers, I mean answer sheet rather of student, what happens? पहला सवाल, पहला जवाब हम देखेंगे, पहला आंसर हम देखेंगे. If the student is able to write it properly, impactfully, then we will carry good impression about the student. और आगे चलकर फिर हम थोड़ा सा उसको गलतियां भी हुई भी तो हम उसको नजरअंदाज करते. But if student committed lot of mistake, if he is illogical in first attempting first question, then what happens? He will be carrying that negative image, negative impression, and that is going to be reflected, that is going to be carry forward throughout the assessment. The same thing is true with the manuscript review of manuscript as well. जब भी reviewer आपकी manuscript देखेगा, he is going to check whether your title is okay or not, whether you have included your abstract is okay or not. What is expected in abstract? Let me tell you. Once he read the title, if he is happy, then he is going to check your abstract. In abstract, he wanted to see what you have done, how you have done, what you have achieved. There are 3 questions. Let me tell you, my friend, you will have to generate those 3 questions. What are those 3 questions? What you have done, how you have done, and what you have achieved. This answer to these 3 questions should be reflected in your abstract. And that too, abstract should not be very long. Abstract should not be very long. It should be like on an average 150 words, around 200 words, not more than 200 words. It varies from journal to journal, but still it should be around 150 to 250 words. It varies from one journal to another, but still it should be around 200 words, I can say, right? So in that 200 words, you must be able to reflect these 3 important, respond to these 3 important questions. What you have done, how you have done. What you have done means what were your objectives. How you have done means what were your methodologies. And what you have achieved means what result you got. That should be reflected in the abstract. Then incomplete introduction. Introduction में सबसे पहले जैसे मैंने बताया कि ये जो 3 parameters है आपकी novelty and then your social relevance and the the credibility. All these 3 parameters need to be reflected in your introduction part only. Of कैसे करना है, that I am going to show you, that I am going to tell you. If it is like incomplete, if you are missing one of those components, it will be considered as the incomplete introduction. Then careless methods, because what happens, like many times we always do the duplication as far as the methodology is concerned. Duplication, what I mean is, let us say I'm working on sensors, right? So what I can do is I can use different material for each sensors, and I can use that material for detection of different gases. But methodology is going to be the same, right? I will be using same method for preparation of material. I will be using same method for characterization of the material. I will be using same method for testing my material for detection of various gases, right? So methodology is going to be same. So whenever I will be drafting my papers, most of the time the student, I mean research scholar, get tempted to use a kind of copy pasting. Kind of copy pasting means whatever earlier publication you have, because you believe that you have used the same experiment, similar kind of methodology, you will copy paste that. Don't do that. Every time you have to write it freshly. Try to use different phrases, try to use the different analogy, so that there won't be any plagiarism, self-plagiarism issue. Similarly, omitted result. I already told you that you might be having huge data with you, and the journal may not allow you to publish, I mean, add those entire data. So you will be required to omit some data. So what is going to be omitted, that is going to be very important. Illogical discussion, जैसे कि मैंने बताया कि whatever discussion you will be having, that should be inconsistent with result and that should be consistent with your results, that should be inconsistent with your introduction part, that should be consistent with your title, right? So if you are missing that consistency, is going to be illogical discussion, and similarly irrelevant conclusion as well. Sometimes these are the common content error I'm talking about. Sometimes like your discussion, the result and discussion is altogether different. You're talking about enhancement in one parameter, and you have mentioned enhancement in something else in the conclusion. So if it is irrelevant, that is why I said all element, right from title, abstract, introduction, result discussion, materials method, result discussion, and conclusion, all these have some sort of, all these elements should some sort of consistency. If it is not, individual element, either conclusion or result discussion or like materials method, is going to be irrelevant. So these are some of the common content errors, and we need to understand what are going to be the common content errors so that you will be able to address those content errors. So let us assume that, my friend, you did a very rigorous literature review, you have done extensive experimentation, or you have collected extensive data, you have interpreted that, right? You have got all those trends, tables, histograms, everything ready. Now you have to drop the manuscript. Now again, I told you yesterday, but I'm not going to repeat this today. I told you yesterday, this Viva analysis need to be done after regular interval. Like you must have done your Viva analysis while drafting your the hypothesis, and then you conducted experiment. But by that time you must have spent almost 5 to 6 months on your experiment, or 5 to 6 months on collection of data. So after 6 months again you need to do the Viva analysis. Otherwise it will be very difficult for you to incorporate the novelty in your manuscript. And therefore, if you really want to incorporate, if you really want to ensure novelty in your investigation, again, while drafting, even if you have got result, now again do quick literature review, do Viva analysis, still identify the gaps, and see whether you were enough, like whatever gaps, whatever work you have done, whether that results can be interpreted to convince the reviewer that we have breached the gap, right? So for that purpose you need to do again Viva analysis. These are, yesterday I was talking about some references. These are going to be the useful resources for you for style and grammar. You can write down this website. Obviously I'm going to send a PDF version of my presentation to coordinator, and then I hope he will get this PDF version. Similarly, you can refer some books on scientific writing also. These are some of the books